Okay, I've got a Horus X10S here from FRSky. I'm guessing this radio is about 3 years old, and disappointingly it looks like the lithium battery inside the transmitter is dead. Not the battery that runs the whole transmitter, but the watch battery that maintains the clock and some other basic settings. So online apparently I found out it's a little bit more complicated to change this battery than you would think. It's not just a matter of taking the back off. The battery is behind the circuit board. It's not in, so when you turn it around, the battery's not going to be here. It's going to be on the other side, on the underneath side of the circuit board. So it looks fairly complicated, or a little bit more than complicated, to just replace the battery. One thing I noticed, apparently you have to take this wheel off to get the board loose. So I've got a plastic tool here from one of the cell phone kits when you replace a battery. I'm going to try to pop this off. If you use a metal screwdriver, I'm just worried that it could scratch the plastic. I've never taken this off. And it doesn't feel like it wants to come off too easy. And we'll be careful. There it goes. Okay. Alright, so it's a standard potentiometer in there, so that's a pretty solid post, and obviously you got to be careful with the plastic. You don't want to bend that or make it soft. Alright, so we've got the knob off. I'm also going to pop out the memory card just in case. I don't want to in any way zap that, so we'll put that in a safe place. Alright, so to get the back off, it's very easy. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips head screws. Just get them out, take the handle, and just kind of wiggle this off. Okay, and then that comes out. Alright, so the next thing obviously is to unplug the battery. We don't want to be messing with this thing with the battery plugged in. That's this connector over here. So let's get that out. It's unplugged. Makes it a little bit safer while we're working on it. And I'm going to pop this out. I think it'll be easier if this is not even in there. Okay. Now I've never done this, so bear with me. If the video's a little rough, it's because I've never done this before, taking this board out. So now, I've been told that you don't have to unplug all these connectors. You can leave them all in there, you can work the board out, and leave most of the connectors on. Now, there's this thing here that does the vibration. This is going to have to be popped out of the plastic because this cable's too short. This is connected to the front of the case. So this has to come out, and I think this is just held in with a little bit of pressure. Yep, it's not even held in with any pressure. It's just sitting there. So pop that out, put it on the top of the board. So let's loosen the Phillips head screws that hold the board in place. Let's start with those since they have to come out. One, and this guy's got to come out here. It's hidden by some of the wires, so move the wires out of the way. Now let's get that screw out. That's 2. And the thing that holds the battery in place is going to have to come out, this whole bracket. That's definitely holding the board down. And these are different screws, so you're going to want to put them to the side in a different area. Okay. Okay, so we've got this assembly here. And yes, you do have to take that out because the board will come off of that. Now this guy we may want to pop loose with the I'm going to dump these screws out to the side because they're going to fall out like they just did on the board, which I was trying to avoid. And we have a screw over here that we're going to have to, I assume, take out. That makes 3 on the circuit board. Oh, actually 4. It's the same location but the opposite side. Okay, so we got those 4 out. And here comes the board. Now, I know they said to make note on the bottom, you've got the antenna down here. So we got to be careful of this wire. It's not too long. Oh, I have a feeling that one might have to be popped off to be able to get to this, but let's see what we can do. I'm going to just look inside here and see where that battery is, and I can't see it from this angle. Let's try it from the right side. And okay, I see the battery. It's dead center in the circuit board, so this is not easy. I don't see how you can do this without popping loose some wires. We're definitely going to have to pop the antenna off. I don't see any way of doing that with the antenna on. So we'll just use a flathead. And I guess it's glued down. Yeah, it is glued down. I see the glue. Let's see what we can do. No, there's no way to... Well, let me reroute the wire. Okay, I've rerouted the wire. I'm pushing the board forward to get it around the charging jack. That's about as far as I can go. And okay, we can probably get the battery from here without having to remove any connections. It's going to be a little tricky getting in there. I don't know how much there it is. You can see the battery. It's right here. I'm just trying to confirm that the internet was correct, that it's a CR1220, and that's what I picked up. Luckily, one of my computer motherboards uses the same battery, so we've got the correct battery on hand. So now we just got to pop that battery out. And that's how you get it out. I hope you saw that. You start on the bottom here. There's a little spring. So push that down. And then the battery pops out. Okay, so there we go. It's a CR1220. So I've got the right replacement battery for it. I'm going to put that guy in. We're going to start from the bottom. Oops. Start from the bottom and then just snap it in. Alright, that goes in. Alright, now I've managed to wedge the LCD panel out of the bay that it was sitting in. So we're going to have to make sure before I button this back up that I don't in any way damage that. Alright, so I made a mess here. I'm going to show you the mess because I'm sure it'll happen to somebody else. I managed to knock the gasket out that this LCD panel sits in, and we're going to have to get that back into place. I'm really disappointed that FRSky designed this way. This is beyond stupid. Those watch batteries obviously have to be replaced, and they put this battery in the worst possible location. Shame on them. Just poor engineering. They don't think things through. And I guess I've got the gasket upside down. Yeah, the big lip goes on the top, small lip on the bottom. And at least I'm willing to put my mistakes on a video. I know a lot of people would never do this, but I will. This way the next person will know what to expect. Okay, so I've got the gasket in place. Watch out for the antenna. And there's also a ribbon that you got to be fairly careful about. That connects to the LCD. Don't want to damage that ribbon. Wow, this is a mess trying to get this back in. I can tell it's not seated correctly. Yeah, you can see here, probably can't see on the camera, but the LCD is not sitting in the gasket. I may not be able to do this with the camera in front of me. The camera makes things more difficult to work on something like this. So I may have to come back without the camera in front of me to get this LCD panel in place. Okay, I got it. Yeah, it's good. It's seated. You can actually feel it really fall into place once it clicks in good there. It just fits perfectly then. Alright, so we got this battery holder. Let's get this out of the way. Now what we've got to simply do is get this circuit board lined up with the screw holes. And it doesn't feel right. And once again, I put my finger on that LCD panel. That is just something you're going to have to remember. When you handle this radio, when it's open, don't put your finger there. Oh, okay, we also have to move the antenna back. So, good thing that messed up. So let's get the antenna back around. We're good. I'm also going to check the health of that connector. Once we've got this all back together, that nothing got messed up. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, that's a good fit. I can feel it. It just fits comfortably on the board. The only thing fighting it is the battery holder. Okay, so I'm going to just loosely put some screws back in to see how it fits. Just going to loosely put them in there. I'm not going to tighten them down. I want to make sure everything lines up good. Alright, so I've loosely got the 4 screws. Let's turn this around and look at the LCD display. It looks good. I don't see any gaps in the edges, so we're good there. Okay, let's get this back. I know they have an official name for that, but I forgot what it's called right now. But that's what makes the transmitter vibrate. Now the antenna, I might have to refer to my video. I don't remember where that black wire was exactly going when I took this apart. If it was just here, or was it this way? So I'm going to have to refer to my own video and then come back so I know exactly how to route that wire. Okay, so I checked my video and the wire goes around the capacitor on the top. This way. Okay. And now let's get the battery holder back on. Let's make sure that that in no way is pinching the wire. And I've got to refer to my video again. I'm not sure if the wire should be above the battery holder, above it over here, or below it. I'll be back once again. Okay, it goes below the battery holder, not above, which makes sense because this way it's a straight line to the actual connector. Okay, so now the battery screws were different. These actually have like a little like red glue on them. Looks like almost red Loctite. You can see it on the heads here. I don't know if every radio will have that, but that's an easy way to identify them. There's that little red glue on it. So we'll get them in next. Once again, I'm going to put them in fairly loosely. I don't want to put anything down tight. And I just want to make sure everything is fit in the right place, and I don't want to pinch any wires. Okay, so now I've loosely got the screws installed. I'm once again going to look at the LCD panel from the front. I want to make sure that that rubber boot is properly inserted. It looks clean. I don't see any gaps in the display. Actually, I do on the bottom, but I have a feeling it's because the board is not flush. Let's see if I put a little pressure on the board. Yeah. And then it closes it up. So once we tighten the screws down, that should eliminate that gap. All right, so I'm going to tighten these screws down. I'm not going to go beyond the stop. Once I feel it get some friction, I'm going to stop. I don't believe they need to be that tight because they're going into a plastic thread. They're not going to loosen on their own. Okay, now let's just wiggle this around, make sure that this wire is not getting pinched by anything, and it's not. Okay. I'm going to check the LCD again, and yeah, it's fine. There's no lip on the bottom, no gap. And there's no gap on any of the other sides. So the rubber boot is in there correctly. I'm going to check all the wires at this point. I want to make sure nothing got pinched or was possibly out of place. Everything looks okay. Since I did not actually pop the antenna off, the glue joint looks good on there. I don't need to put any new glue on. Okay, so just so you know, since we have it out, the battery is a 2S 2600 lithium ion battery. And I guess I've seen people 3D print different battery holders to get a larger battery in there. Okay, so let's snake this connector back in for the battery. That's nicely fit in there. I assume the excess wires go inside that. I might refer to my video again to see exactly where they went. But I'm sure they just got tucked in there. Alright, so pay attention to the polarity so you don't push this in or force it in the wrong way. Plug it in. I am not going to put the back on. I'm just going to turn it around, see if this thing turns on okay. And no SD card, that's okay. This fell out, no big deal. That does not snap in, that just sits in that little holder there. Alright, so we'll get the SD card. Okay, we've got that popped in. Let's try this again.
Welcome to OpenTX. Throttle warning.
Okay, so we look good. Obviously it lost the date and the time, which I expected. And that was actually my clue that the battery was not in good health. The clock was running extremely fast. I was out flying yesterday. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was saying it was about 10 o'clock at night. So that was my clue that the battery had to be replaced. So I'm going to button this up. We're going to power it down. And once again, this fell out. So when you button this up, obviously, you want to make sure you don't pinch these wires on the sides here. There's not a lot of room. And it's possible, I guess, you could pinch something if you're not careful. Yeah, so you can see here, you could easily pinch those wires. So let's pull the case up. We want to make sure they're inside the plastic here. There's a plastic post here. Keep the wires inside that post. And I've got a rogue wire here that's managed to pull itself away from everything. Let's try this again. This side is good, and this side is good. So we can push it in. I didn't feel anything fighting it. And what I'm going to do is, before I put the screws back in, I'm going to turn it on one more time.
Welcome to OpenTX.
And we seem fine. And actually, let's go to the system menu. And actually, we can't go to the system menu right now because I don't have that thumb wheel back on the transmitter. So the thumb wheel has a little notch in it. You're going to have to line that notch up correctly with the potentiometer. The potentiometer has a slot and a flat spot. So you got to make sure that you line that knob up correctly with the flat spot. and the slot in the center. So if you'll look, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick this up. There's a slot here. That has to line up with the slot. And this side is going to line up with the flat spot. So my flat spot right now is pointing at about 2 o'clock. So we're going to put this at about 2 o'clock. And no big deal. That went right in. And then you can adjust your system time. And you're good to go. So just to review real quickly, you need a CR1220 lithium battery. I picked these up on eBay. They're not expensive. And this is a pretty common battery. They use these a lot on computer motherboards. So this is an easy one to find. But shame on FRSky. They should never have put that battery on the back side of the board. That should have been on the board, that when you open up the back, you could easily get it out. That's a bad design. They didn't think that through. Great radio. Otherwise, I love OpenTX. And hopefully this battery will last a few years so I don't have to do this again.